Second segment of the show for today. The guest is Dr. LMadu, and we're talking about ethnic groups in Africa and their impact upon governance. And Dr. LMadu, let's see if we can pick up where you left off the last time. I think what you've painted is a picture of real chaos in terms of trying to bring all of these various groups together because of the absence of any particular language other than the colonial language. And if all can't speak that particular colonial language, they can't go on. Talk about that.
Well, some of these ethnic groups, you know, depending on where they are found, some of them are mutually interdependent, and some also are mutually antagonistic. What I mean by mutually interdependent is, for example, the Luos in Kenya, you know, have their kith and kin in Uganda called, you know, the Langi. They can understand each other language, even though they have different names, you know. In Ghana, you have the Evers. You know, and then in Togo, across the border, you have the Evers. They can speak to each other because they have the same language, even though the British they divided them, you know, according to their, you know, scheme. What the division of these ethnic groups have created in Africa is what we call political instability, because they divided these ethnic groups not according to the way it should be done, but according to the colonial interests. For example, Togo and Ghana has been having problems for a long time now over who the Evers, who controls them, where do they belong. You know, you have Evers in Togo, Evers in Ghana, they're the same. The best thing would have been what? To have them in one country. But the British split them, you know, into different places. And so those kind of things create a lot of instability. Now,
was that done on purpose in order to divide these various groups?
Well, of course, that's what a lot of people think. You know, they should have known better, not to divide the same people, you know, into
But that was a method of control, colonial control, that the British...
Exactly, to keep, you know, the pot boiling, you know, and that creates a lot of instability. And then, of course, you have to call them to come and help, you know. So that's the way people see it now. Why divide people who should be together? And you have seen some of the other ethnic groups are enumerated, you know, into different countries. You know, they should have been in one country. So these things create problems. Now, let's look at how these ethnic groups influence politics within their own, you know, countries. Now, at times you hear about wars in Africa, and you will not understand why they are being fought, because you don't see any ideology or what they are fighting about. It wouldn't be about rebuilding the country. It wouldn't be about, you know, a particular philosophy you have to do things. You just see people fighting. Then you wonder what is going on here. But beneath, you know, is the ethnic cauldron, not the religious. Because most of the time Africans don't fight wars over religion, but over ethnic issues. At times they bring in religion, you know,
as to justify, perhaps.
Exactly, to justify whatever they're doing. Okay, so most of the wars are ethnic related. For example, in Angola, most people will say, well, they are fighting over this and that. It was all ethnic, because those who came to power in Angola are regarded as, you know, mestizos. They are light-skinned Mbundu intellectuals who have become what the Portuguese call assimilados. That means those Africans who've taken Portuguese cultural pretensions, education and all this, and they were mostly light-skinned. Jonas Savimbi, who was opposing, you know, the government in Angola, is from the Ovimbundu ethnic group, further south. And they dislike, you know, those who are in power in Luanda, because they feel they are light-skinned outsiders who are there to maintain Portuguese interests, not real Africans. Okay, Agostinho Neto, Lopo Nascimento, Mario Andrade, Lucio Lara, Commandant Iko Carrera, those who founded the popular movement for the liberation of Angola, who run the country today, are regarded as, you know, light-skinned mestizos from the Mbundu ethnic group. So they have been opposed by the Ovimbundu ethnic group led by Jonas Savimbi. In Togo, the same thing. The people who run the country today are called the Cabres. Okay, they are loggerhead with the Ewe ethnic group. Now, in 1967, the person who was in charge of the country even before then, was Sylvanus Olympio. He's Ewe. And the person who overthrew him, Nasimbo Yadema, is from the Cabre ethnic group. And his ethnic group has been in power since 1970 today. I had an interesting conversation with one of his advisors when they asked me to come and be an observer at the last election in Togo when Yadema was the president. So I asked him, I said, why can't he step down? He said, well, the man is tired already. He's been in power since 1967. He wants to step down. But the people around him and his ethnic group doesn't want to give power up. And in Africa, it makes some sense, okay, because when they give up power, they are scared of the Ewes taking power again and exerting revenge. You understand?
On the things that they've done in order to stay in power.
Exactly. Exactly, about things they've done in order to stay in power. So they are afraid to give up power. That's a big problem. In Ghana, after Rawlings came to power, a lot of people felt that all those generals he executed, you know, was tribally based, ethnically based. See, Rawlings belongs to the Ewe ethnic group in Ghana, okay? And the predominance of those generals he executed, Akan or Ashanti, to be, you know, to be straightforward. So a lot of people felt that if those generals were from the Ewe ethnic group, he wouldn't exactly, he wouldn't have been in that a hurry to have them, you know, executed. Now, in Guinea-Bissau, we talked about that. You know, you remember the cocaine trade we talked about last time when the president was killed. In Guinea-Bissau, the president who was killed belongs to an ethnic group called Papel. He has been at loggerheads since he came to power with the majority Balanta tribe, and most of the soldiers who overthrew him or killed him come from that ethnic group called the Balanta. So it has a lot of ethnic coloration to his assassination because he comes from a minority group. Ethnic group is about 7% of the population, and majority of the soldiers comes from this majority ethnic group called the Balanta. In Guinea, Sékou Touré, when he was in power, Sékou Touré was a Mandinka from the Mandinka ethnic group. He used his power to suppress the majority Fulani group that wanted to, you know, were opposing his government.
Dr. LMadu, let us take this commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.